Hey everyone, and welcome to the Diablo Herald episode number 14. And Diablo Herald is the episode podcast where we talk about Diablo 3, the game, not the movie, or board game, the video game, and also issues that relate to our local area, Australia and New Zealand. I am Hoigo, and with me as always, the wonderful Highlander. How are you
You
doing?
always say that, and I'm just not going to be here next week just to mess with you. Hi, everyone.
We'll put your
And
empty camera on.
and ZiggyD. Excited,
The glorious
ZiggyD?
ZiggyD. I'm excited.
That's good.
I have some fun things to talk about tonight, so
Cool.
should be fun. Should be a fun
excited.
episode. Casual.
Cool. All right. So first off, I would just wanted to mention that there is maintenance tomorrow night, an 8-hour maintenance. So it's quite a long one, starting at 8 p.m. Australian Eastern Standard Time. Don't really know what it's for. I don't think it's the next patch because they said that they were going to be giving us like an update before that happened, and they haven't said anything for ages. So yeah, Blizzard's been really quiet. So don't know what's happening there. Hopefully they're all hard at work at making the game better. I hope that's what it is. Yes.
Don't they always have a maintenance on Tuesday? But it's not usually 8 hours, is it?
It's not that abnormal.
Yeah.
Because whenever they announce maintenance, you're kind of expecting about 8 hours. So otherwise, like they do all these server resets that will be shorter. But yeah, like 8 hours for maintenance is not a big, unusual deal.
Yep. Cool. Alright, so what I thought we could talk about tonight is the possibility of an Australian Diablo 3 server or Battle.net server. There's heaps of threads in the Australian and New Zealand Diablo 3 forum that pop up all the time with people complaining about lag and those kinds of issues, and people asking about Australian servers or local servers and wanting information, and Blizzard basically has never really given us any type of response. Not really on the forums anyway. So, there has been a few things that have happened. The last maybe 2 years ago, they did say that apparently the problem was actually with Australian ISPs. They were having a problem with them. They didn't really specify exactly what it was, but were basically, passing the buck and laying the blame with Australian ISPs. But I thought I'd get you guys' opinion on why you think that they've never done it, and whether you think it will happen in the future. Who wants to go first? Who's got an idea? Not Highlander.
Well, for one, they've already got the hardware there in Singapore for they've got the StarCraft 2 servers on, but I've been getting a really bad connection even to that lately, so I think there's something else going on in the works. So, as you said, with the Australian ISPs, I know Optus used to have problems with the Singapore servers, because I was on Optus for a while and had a lot of problems with the SEA region servers, but I had a much better connection to NA. So,
Okay.
I don't know, I'm not really that keen on the idea of further segregation of the servers. I'm more keen of it having a global server and just having multiple servers that all link together and things like that. But
Yep.
I don't know. I don't think we'll see an SEA server for Diablo at all.
Yep. So
Ever.
why are you what is it about having the segregated servers that you don't like?
I think half of the fun of these games is the population. There's currently an issue where you're not really even seeing the population that are in the game anyway. So I know it might not seem like that's a big drawback, but I think in the future that is going to be a big draw for the game.
Yeah.
That there is, a couple hundred people you can talk to in a general chat. I think the chat interface is going to be a lot better. Possibly after the time that this next StarCraft patch comes, they're going to be doing a significant overhaul of the UI, because they're doing one for StarCraft at the moment. that should make a big improvement to the community aspects of it.
Mm-hmm.
So I hope to see a similar sort of thing come out in Diablo, and then segregating the servers even more. It's like you're just gonna kill that a little bit more. You can have Australian channels and stuff in the American servers, but I don't see the point of having it segregated to another server. It's just too small. The auction houses would just be empty, and some people might not care about that, but I think it's a big part of the game, and you can't just have it be empty.
Yeah, it's definitely a huge part of the game, and having such a smaller amount of people around to buy things that you might want to sell is, I guess, frustrating for. Well, it's going to be frustrating for a lot of people. So, yeah. I think the other thing that's worth mentioning on this issue is if you look at like pure population figures in the US, there is over 300 million people. In Australia, there's 22 million. So when you look at those kinds of numbers, it's kind of, I think, one of those things where it puts it really low on a priority list for a company like Blizzard, where they've got a game that's so new and there's so many issues with it that need to be sorted out. Putting a server or spending the resources on a server here for only 22 million people or whatever part of that 22 million actually play the game, it's kind of low on the priority list. So I mean that really sucks, and I'm not saying that they shouldn't do it or anything, but I think that's just the way it is, and I can't see it happening really anytime soon. So yeah, did you have any
Hopefully
thoughts?
things get a bit more stable. Let's
Yeah.
continue.
Yeah. Did you want to add anything, Highlander?
Yes. Okay, so I spent that time developing a visual prop, so I hope ZiggyD didn't say anything too good. But let's see if I've got it going on here.
Okay.
All right.
Oh. Okay.
Is that backwards?
No.
I don't think it matters too much, man.
All right. Well, I don't know.
What's the blue
It's
stuff at the
already
top?
thrown me. Yeah. Okay. So
Is that ocean?
no. That's cables. Okay. So if you want to actually get a much better version of this, of this non-pink map, go to cable info. Cablemap.info, which is like one of the coolest sites in the world because it talks about it. And the world, that is. So here's Australia, right? And then there's a New Zealand. And you have this cable here. And this is called the Southern Cross Network. And that is where the majority of data goes in and out of Australia. Anyone can use that, and it's a very, very big, thick cable. It's probably bigger than my arm. Probably bigger than a lot of things, right? So then you have, and that goes to LA roughly, right? I'm rounding it off.
Okay. But first it goes to New Zealand. What's up with that?
Yeah,
That's
well,
lame.
they do get a bit of love. Now,
Okay.
that is, like I said, the biggest cable that goes in and out of Australia. And there's a whole bunch of other ones, like there's this Telstra Endeavour cable and all sorts of other ones, but almost everything goes through there. And some of those other cables, they're just for like wholesale or business users and stuff like that. So your traffic almost certainly goes via New Zealand. Well, anyway, I'm oversimplifying. But then you have Perth over here. Right, this is Sydney. That's where the Southern Cross comes out of. But then you've got Perth over here, and this goes off like via Whoop Whoop and goes to Singapore. And that's where the StarCraft 2 Southeast Asian server is. And now that's all well and good, but that one is called the SEAMEWE, and that is something that when it was built, Telstra didn't buy in. Optus didn't buy into. So Optus users can't use that cable, which means that if you're an Optus user, your only way to get to a server that's anywhere in Southeast Asia, is to go to New Zealand, to LA, and then there's like 100 million cables that go across the Pacific up there. So you're going from LA over to Singapore then. So you go via LA. So, if you're an Optus user, there's no point you having a connection that or wanting to go to Singapore because you actually travel further than if you're traveling to the typical American server. So you can check that out on Greg's cable map. It's really, really cool at cablemap.info.
Mm-hmm.
But that's the long story short. That's the biggest problem for the Southeast Asian server, which is where everyone's connecting to for StarCraft. And that's why there's a lot of complaints in particular about Optus users having additional trouble. Pretty much everyone else rents Telstra lines anyway, so like the II-nets of the world and whatnot. They're just getting access to that Telstra line anyway, so they're not so fussed. It's really Optus users that get stunk. So
Right.
that's the downside to hosting something near but not in Australia. So, then the next issue is Australia is just expensive, right? Everything here, especially now compared to the US, is expensive.
Yep.
They've got nothing existing here. It would be catering for a relatively small number of people. And normally you'd be able to think, oh, well, I'll offset that by doing something in Singapore super cheap, which is what they thought about doing, and they did. But it doesn't really help us that much. We're still traveling a heck of a way. So unless you're actually going to put the thing in Sydney, there's not a lot of second options there. And, that's a pretty big stretch. They've also had some other bad experiences with small servers before. With StarCraft 2, they really did try to give us the best that they've ever given us in terms of the Southeast Asian server.
Yeah.
And, you can say how ill-conceived it was, but they also experimented with smaller servers generally. So they had, and if you're an older Diablo player, then all you're going to know is you had US West, US East, Asia, and Europe. And that was all pretty straightforward. We always connected to US West, and all the WoW players were on the same system. They didn't have BattleNet 2.0 per se, and the SEA server didn't exist. Now, and that Asian server is based in Korea as well, just so you know. Now, the way they set it up with StarCraft 2 was they had all these other little servers. They only had a similar amount of data centers, but they had all these other servers. So like they had a Latin America server, they had a Russian server, a Taiwanese server, and another one as well, I think. And pretty much if it wasn't... so the reason for that segregation was for language and for cultural reasons. So they thought that would be a good idea, but they just became so barren. And Latin America's got a lot of people in it. Sure, maybe not as many of them are playing a game like StarCraft per capita, but there's still a lot of people there. Same with Taiwan as well. But really, they just found that these places were too barren, and they didn't have the sufficient population. So anyone that was connected to the same data center, they merged together. So the people in LA, they were segregated away from the North Americans, but they still connected to the same server, so they just merged them. Same goes for Taiwan. They were connecting to the Korean data center, even though they were segregated, so they merged them. And Russia as well into Europe, I think. Now, the only one that they couldn't do that to was the Southeast Asian server. It's by far and large the smallest server, but it has its own data center, so they can't merge it with something else.
Right.
And I think the fact that they didn't continue that server for Diablo 3 is pretty much just a we give up, forget it from Blizzard. It just, as far as I'm concerned, that just absolutely killed it dead in the water for there to be any hope, any time, relatively soon for a server remotely close to Australia. The closest we're ever going to get is Korea as the crow flies, but really, as per the awesome mapness, it's going to be LA. It's the best we're ever going to get.
Yeah.
And the only thing that would bug me more than having to connect to LA and having those crappy pings would be for them to stuff it around again. Because last time when they tried it, and they tried to put things in Southeast Asia, there were a lot of people that said, I don't really care about the ping quite so much. I want to be where all my friends are.
Yeah.
I live in a global village. I don't just have Australian friends. I want to be able to connect to my American friends. Blah, 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 blah. And it just became last time with Southeast Asia, it was just a big mess. And I think they regret it, in my opinion. And I think they'd have the same experience again. And people just wouldn't play here. They'd just find it too barren. They couldn't find the games they want, or they want to play with their Yankee friends.
Yeah.
And off they go.
Yeah.
So I don't see it ever, ever, ever happening.
Yep. Yeah, that's pretty much the way I see it too. Yeah, that when people are changing from an SCA server to a North American server because they want to play with their American friends, that's kind of a good reason for them not to worry about making a local server for us, if that's actually what's happening in reality. Whether, whatever reason it was, it looks pretty bad for our argument of having a server of our own. So yeah.
I mean, even on Diablo, playing on the most popular server, playing on the US one, in the auction house, you can really see the the drop in terms of player numbers, in terms trying to get stuff sold, in terms of turnover of items. You can really see it. You can really feel it. In finding games for certain quests already, you can really see it, especially in hardcore mode. So imagine how freaking dead the place would be. Imagine how hard it would be to find an Inferno level, an Inferno difficulty hardcore game if it was Australia.
Yeah.
I mean, seriously, there might only be like 3 of us in Inferno in hardcore mode for all I know, and that wouldn't surprise me. In fact, that number might be high. So
there's only like 2 people on SC2 SEA that are playing hardcore.
yeah, and they're a big crowd of generally passionate Blizzard gamers.
Yep.
So yeah, it would suck, and there's a lot of downsides. I think people don't think these things through when they yearn for such things, and they say, who was one of the bigger ones that had one here? Was it the Star Wars MMO that had an Aussie server?
I don't know.
Anyway, people cite a game like that, and I think the way that's structured, maybe that works a little bit better. I don't know. Maybe it's just a fail. That game's been having a lot of problems with player numbers, anyways. But it just happens, and I just don't think we can support something like that.
Even Path of Exile, which is based in New Zealand, has North American servers and no servers near us.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh, God.
And they're based in New Zealand. They've designed the game around our at least 200 millisecond ping.
Wow.
That's great. I love it. It's just the way it should be, because we're not going to get servers here. It's just impractical. I can definitely see the draw for it, though, like why they want it. And I kind of do like having the SEA StarCraft 2 server. It's a neat little community, but it is definitely a little community.
Yeah, there's pros and cons to that. But playing StarCraft was incredibly frustrating. You can't play a free-for-all game. It's hard to play a free-for-all game on the North American server, and you just dream on. And it's a cool format. It's a fun format, but you can't do it. And who knows what will happen with PvP in Diablo? Maybe it'll be, if we had our own server, you just couldn't get 3-player games because everyone likes playing 4s or something like that.
Yep. Yeah.
And around.
Cool. That was probably the most intelligent explanation I've ever heard of that, by the way, Pat, with your map.
Cool.
With your dodgy little map. It explained my SEA ping when I was on Optus.
Yeah.
I was wondering about that. Thanks.
No worries.
Puts me to shame.
Yes, we all learned something today. Cool. So with that, we'll go on to the next topic. Now, this is something that Ziggy's put together, a little bit of a segment, leading off from what we were talking about. I don't know how to introduce it, really.
I can introduce it if you want. So, I've been playing a bit of Path of Exile lately, since it's had its free weekend, and I've bought a beta kit and stuff like that. And I want to title this segment, 3 Things That Blizzard Could Learn from Path of Exile. So, I'll just preface this by saying that I think Diablo is probably still a better game than Path of Exile, but we can definitely agree that Blizzard have missed the bar on a few things, and I think Path of Exile has a few answers to these things. I'm not talking about huge game mechanic changes. I'm just talking about things that they could quite easily change or add into the game that would really just make the game a lot more fun. So, the first of the 3, end game. Okay, so in Path of Exile, you have when you get to the end game, so high level around 60. There's 100 levels in Path of Exile, but say around 60. You can start picking up itemized maps, which You get them off boss drops or randomly off mobs that you kill and stuff like that. They're pretty rare and things like that. They're itemized so they can have affixes as well, like that. They can be magical, they can be rare, or I think they can even be like legendary ones, legendary maps and things like that. So these maps with these modifiers provide some effect on that map. So you could have things like extra loot, burning floors, lightning enchanted mobs, extra size mobs, so all sorts of fun things like that. So
For a whole
how could we apply?
map.
What's that?
Sorry.
Yeah, for a whole map. So
Yeah.
you go into this little scroll room. Put your scroll down. You can even use some of the things to re-roll its stats if you want. If you want to like try for a harder map or something like that, and you put it in there and it opens the portals, and you get like 5 portals to try and do that map. If you die more than 5 times, then the map closes off, and see how much loot you can get from it. So that adds like a pretty interesting end game element to the game in that you can keep going for more and more challenging maps with higher payoffs and more interesting challenges. So how can we apply this to Diablo 3? All right. So we've talked a bit in the past of having like things like challenge maps in Diablo 3. So I think you could definitely have challenge maps with randomized or even selectable mods. So you could add extra challenges to these maps. So they could just be things taken from the game, or they could be randomly generated. And adding extra challenges increases, the rewards either through giving a bonus MF or extra item quantity. What do you guys think about this idea? Pat?
I think you've covered everything. I think that's good.
You jerk.
Look, actually, I mean that sounded really, really cool. I think they've got something, a really good structure there. The only thing that was a slight downside I was thinking as you were talking there was just it sounded pretty complicated, and it doesn't sound like it would be initially intuitive.
Yeah,
which
the game's complicated.
yeah,
I think C3 could definitely simplify it.
Yeah, well, I mean, I think when you've got something that's a bit more indie and a bit less mainstream, then I think that's great, and it works that much better. And they don't expect it to be for everybody; they just expect it to be for their dedicated audience. I think every time I think of stuff like that, I think of Heroes of Might and Magic and how that's become sort of like a bit of an underground, almost indie type series now. And for Heroes of Might and Magic 5, there's like this massive fan-made PDF that comes installed with the game because the community built it. It's just got this close-knit, awesome community around it. And it's just pages and pages and pages, and some seriously good graphic design people have built like these fantastic diagrams and whatnot, infographics into it. And and that works, and people love it. And people want to go in and they min-max, and they want to read all the stats, and they get the complexity because they're not dumb. So yeah, that definitely works more in the indie environment. Perhaps it should be applied to the not so indie environment a bit more.
How do you think Diablo 3 could take that idea and simplify it in a way that would suit into current Diablo 3's current setup?
I mean, even like what you were saying, where you predict your or you can use different things to create or alter that map that you enter.
Yep.
Rather than using a specific stat, so to speak, or rather than seeking a specific stat, you could start with having a range of stats, and you build on something you have existing already. So, like for example, if you could have a portal and you can stick a ruby in it, and then that will give more aggressive stuff in there.
Yep.
And so on and so forth to each of the different gems, rather than getting quite down into that nitty gritty. I don't know. Again, it still sounds fairly complex.
I think you could just add it into the crafting system, like through the blacksmith or something, and have it have certain mats, and if you change some of the mats, you could give you different things.
And they just open portals like Staff of Herding.
Yeah, it just opens a portal. Yeah, basically. Yeah, they've already got that mechanic in the game with the Staff of Herding. Just add more maps like that with different unique traits to them.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, so they wouldn't be places you find. You just get a new staff, a staff of this, a staff of that.
What do you think, Quarry?
Interesting. Just for the viewers' sake, can we go over the idea again?
Yeah, that's right. So in Path of Exile,
the viewers.
how it works there.
Okay, go Ziggy.
All right. So in Path of Exile, you can find when you're a high level these maps. They're an item that drops off mobs, and basically that map is magical or rare or unique or something like that. So same as the normal items. And when you identify it, it has certain stats on it. But instead of being, like your +5 cold damage or whatever, it might be like all minions do cold damage, or the floors are on fire, or things like that, or you continually take damage from poison or something like that. So each of these adds challenge, and then there's also a modifier that is mobs drop 150% extra loot and 150% better extra loot. And as the maps get harder, those rewards get better.
Right.
So you take this little map and you put it in a room, and then it opens 5 portals, and you can go through to that place 5 times before it closes.
Right.
So that's essentially the core of it. But you can modify those maps using other items.
Yep.
To make them more complex or more difficult.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. No, that's a really cool idea. It's a way that they can sort of make an unlimited amount of dungeons that all have different properties that represent different challenge levels. I think something like that would be really good to increase, the time that you can keep playing a game like that. If there was something like that in Diablo, I think people wouldn't see, if they found a really hard one, they wouldn't see that as like an unbeatable challenge, because while it may be unbeatable at the level that they're at, they don't see it as like a necessary thing like they do see completing Inferno. Like, people feel like they should be able to complete Inferno, and when they can't, they get pissed off. Because, in Diablo 2, there wasn't really that difficulty level that was that hard. It was kind of like an extra thing. You could complete Hell pretty easily. But in Diablo 3, there's Inferno, which is just really difficult. So it'd be I think that'd be a really awesome, way to extend the playtime of the game, to have, almost random difficulty levels. It's a cool idea.
It gives you it just takes you away from doing the quests over and over again as well.
Yeah.
Gives you an option to do something a little bit different, something a little bit unique that has some variability in it. And it also allows you to trade those maps like that. You could potentially be able to trade them. You can in Path of Exile, and people do trade them.
Yeah.
So that's just to confirm what someone asked in the chat. Someone was asking, so each map has bad and good affixes, and that's true. Usually the good ones are that there is extra loot, but there's some other ones that are like, there's no monsters on this, and there's just a chest with 1,000% extra loot in it. That's like a pretty rare map that you can find. You just go in there, get the chest, and it's just loot explosion.
Really? That sounds so cool.
That's pretty cool.
So that'd be a fun map to trade, obviously.
That'd be a good way
play,
to sort of take the linearness out of the game as well. Make it feel less linear, because you have the choice of, well, do I complete the main story, or do I go off and do this map that I found? It's pretty cool.
And that would help with that frustration in Inferno. When you're like, you have 2 options. Like, I'm at the point where I have 2 options. I can go and just bash my head against Zoltan Cool a bit more, or I can go and farm Act 1 some more. And they're sort of my 2 options. I don't really have much else. So yeah, if they were to do it, I'd love to see it done in Inferno, but with not needing to beat Israel or something, before you're actually able to unlock it. Have different bits that unlock as you go. So again, that would give you, as you're progressing, you unlock something else to do. After beating Zoltan Cool, I don't just get the option of bashing my head against someone else.
Yeah.
I can actually get the option to, not him specifically necessarily, but as I progress to Act 2, I get to unlock something fancy, a side path. And the game, yeah, you're right, the game is so linear. Anything that would help, it's never going to be a sandbox game, but anything, where you can just, give you people their own sense of direction would be, just so much better.
Yeah.
You could tie them to the eye levels as well. So as you're saying, with having some drop in Act 1 Inferno, that would be, eye level 61 or whatever. And then
for the recipes, if we were to do it by the crafting system.
Oh yeah, if you do it by crafting system, they could be drops as well, I don't know. But yeah, you can have them so that you could get lower level ones if you're in lower levels of Inferno and not wanting to progress yet.
Yeah.
Yep.
And even maybe some in Hell. I don't know. I don't know when you would start doing this thing, but
This could be a function a Mystic could perform even.
yes, I have other
Yeah.
ideas for the Mystic that are coming up, so that could definitely go for her. All right, so
Cool.
I think that covers that one. Let's move on to the next one, which kind of ties into this one a little bit. It's about crafting. In my opinion, the crafting system in Diablo 3 is kind of useless, and I don't find it fun. But I really wish it was. So, in Path of Exile, currency items, which replace gold in the game, so just don't freak out here, but these items can be used to turn white weapons and armor into magical weapons and armor. They can be used to change sockets. They can be used to re-roll stats to try and potentially get a higher number on the same stats. They can be used to add extra stats, or they can provide small bonuses to the base stats of a weapon, so increasing its damage very slightly. This is an inherently huge currency sink in the game, and it's an interesting crafting system because it gives you about 5 different ways of getting to the same outcome of improving your gear. You can either trade these items for better gear with someone else, or you can use them to, try and roll a rare with one of these items, or you could be using them to try and just improve a rare you already have or something like that. So, is that all good so far? And sort of get that? I rushed through the first one. I don't want to screw it up again.
No, it made sense.
All right, cool. So, how do we apply this to D3? So the Mystic returns into the game. She comes back and allows all current crafting mats, or some of the current crafting mats, to be used to alter or provide slight bonuses to gear, to pre-existing gear. So instead of just crafting new gear through the blacksmith. This could even provide a use for white items by allowing you to turn white items into rares and stuff like that. I think some people might appreciate white items having a use again. I remember in Diablo 2, at the end, perfect white items were worth quite a bit for this reason, and the same sort of thing could happen. This would also improve the value of crafting mats, could provide a better gold sink, because crafting mats have multiple uses besides just crafting new things. They can be... I think people would really spend a lot more mats trying to improve their current gear than randomly rolling new gear and hoping. And it would make crafting more fun. I think I'd really enjoy having multiple uses for that, and the potential of just slightly improving my gear each time and things like that.
Yep.
What do you guys think? Quaker?
Yeah, I think it's really cool. I mean, I guess that sort of thing too, it almost feels like it takes a lot of the, I don't know how to describe it, I guess pressure off finding items. If you found an item that was almost good, being able to, sink some money or currency or crafting materials into that item to make it go from almost good to good would be, it would make it a lot better. I think, it would make that, finding all those items and going, this would be good if, this one stat was just a little bit higher, that happens all the time in Diablo 3, and I think that sort of thing would make it a lot more fun, and also create another sink for currency like gold in the game.
It's relative though, that item that would now be almost good would actually in that new system be bad, because you would need your item to be right at that peak level and then up it a bit more. It's always going to be relative. So the downside to something like that is, if you just have to do anything on a rudimentary basis, the item's not good until you've gotten your perfect roll in your whatever you're doing with your crafting system, however that's working. But if you get your perfect roll in your crafting system and then you just have to go over to the Mystic to adjust it, because that's what you do, then that doesn't seem any different, and it just is an extra rudimentary layer. And that part, anything where you pretty much just have to do it sucks, and anything where it can sound great in a Diablo 3 universe, but then you need to add on that everything's going to be relative as well. So if that's what everyone's doing, then you're not making existing items So you'd be making existing items better, for the period that they've made the change. But then afterwards, it's an expectation that people are performing that function. So what would it would just be a way of making items more powerful and existing items less powerful.
It'd be interesting to see if it goes that way, because I don't think it is actually a case of improving existing items, because it's still RNG. Like every time you re-roll a blue item into another blue item, it still has a random chance to produce different stats that could even be worse than the current one. So if you have the mats to re-roll it 100 times, then you might have a fair few chances to get a better item, but that's still going to cost you the materials that you've gotten from other drops and things like that.
Okay.
So it's still RNG, and I think it's more about providing options for you can either try and improve your current gear, or you can save up your mats to craft something else, or you can trade things like that.
But it'd just be a price difference, really. I mean, what's the difference between re-rolling an existing item or just crafting a brand new one? I mean, is it just two ways?
Point. I'm not sure if it. Yeah, you might be right that it might not work as well in the Diablo 3 style economy, because it does work very well in Path of Exile economy, because the things that you're using to roll are the currency. But be interesting to see how it might apply to Diablo 3.
I know. I mean, one cool thing about Diablo, or terrible thing, depending on your point of view, is everything's the currency. Like there's the market. The market's going to determine the value of everything. So gold gets you everything. I was listening to one podcast the other day, and it was quite infuriating that I couldn't jump into that podcast, because they were talking about, like, if you got a recipe, you'd have to break down 20 rares to be able to craft one brand new rare. And it's like, well, no, you just go in the auction house, because subtle essences only cost this many gold. So your crafting cost wasn't 90k per roll or whatever it was. In this instance, it would just be 90k plus 20 times the value of subtle essences. So that's one good thing, bad thing, depending on your point of view about this crafting system. About this market system that we have. And it just makes everything just a function of gold, and it's just a rudimentary thing of, okay, I now need, instead of needing 90 grand, I need 130 grand, because that's what it's going to cost me to buy all the materials I need.
Yeah. Interesting.
Yeah, I'm not sure how it worked, but I don't know. Hopefully, maybe something like that could make it more interesting, at least. But yeah, I'd like to see the Mystic come back with the option to improve or re-roll items and things like that. I'm wondering if she will be coming back and in what function.
I just think we need more buxom NPCs, so that's all.
Definitely more buxom NPCs. There's a distinct lack of them. All right, so I think Pat did a pretty good job of shooting down that idea, but no, I still think it's an interesting idea. There's nothing but interesting ideas for discussion. So there's no failing.
Anything that gives you something else to look for besides like yellow items is probably a good thing, I guess.
All right, well, let's move on to the third one, because this is the most fun, and I'm sure no one can shoot this one down, because it's infallible. It's infallible. Okay, so legendaries. Now, I'm going to make sure that you guys have this link here, because you guys might want to look along, and Huego, you might want to bring it up on the stream.
Yep.
Okay, so in Path of Exile, bringing up the picture.
Okay, there it is.
Can we get this link into the chat?
Oh, yes, I can definitely put this link into the chat. I think I can post links. Yeah, I can. There we go.
Anyways.
Great. All right, so these are some Path of Exile uniques. So I'll start off by saying how it works in Path of Exile. Now, unique gear pieces are beaten on raw stats by 10% of uniques. This is what Chris Wilson, one of the developers, has quoted as being, the average level of uniques.
Chris Wilson.
Yep,
evil twin brother.
They're not related, apparently. Maybe we should bring Chris Wilson over to Blizzard and double him, double Wilson.
Developer swap. Best TV show ever coming up.
Awesome. Okay, so they're inherently weaker on their base stats most of the time, but they could still be good, but not always. Okay, so that's pretty much the same as Diablo. There's not really too much difference there. However, this is the thing that doesn't happen in Diablo. They provide unique modifiers that can completely enable a new build or change the way a build is played. So here we have our examples, and I'm going to go through these ones just briefly and give some examples of how they can how they can work in the game. Okay, so in the top left we have a bow called Spring. Oh, wait, is it? No, we have a shield called Springleaf. Sorry. It's an example of a very low level unique that has high level applications, and I've seen high level characters using this in very niched builds that reserve life to cast auras. So usually when you cast an aura in Path of Exile, it reserves a certain amount of your mana that you can't use for spells. However, you can use an ability that changes that to blood magic, so you're reserving your life instead of your mana. Okay, so I recently saw a really cool build that used blood magic and a really low base HP pool to ensure that they were always low on life and always able to stack low life benefits. And having this regen meant that they could cast spells without, killing themselves. So that shield there, being very low level, still enabled high level characters to be able to do this, which is a build you couldn't otherwise do really without that much life regen.
Right.
So that's an interesting one there. All right. Okay. Now let's move on to the top right item. It's a high level bow with an always hits mod, which allows you to make a range that completely ignores the accuracy and dexterity in favor of other abilities. So there's the same sort of 2-hit chance as in Diablo 2 in Path of Exile. So that allows you to build different ranger type builds that don't have to do so much dexterity, and you can get things like strength instead and get another ability that allows you to use strength to increase your damage on a bow. So just adding a bit more flexibility in there into the way you can build your ranges. In the bottom left, we have gain power charge on crit hit. I think this one's probably my favorite because each power charge increases your crit chance by 50% of your base crit chance. So the more crit chance you have means the more you can get power charges. It kind of stacks like frenzy stacks do, but it sort of keeps going on. So you could make a pretty fun crit build with this as an archer or something like that. Okay, so on the bottom right we have 35% move speed on full life, and it's an energy shield item, which energy shield can be used in lieu of HP to... It's like a buffer over your HP, sort of the same as Protoss and StarCraft 2, their shields.
Yep.
Or like energy shield in Diablo 2.
There was energy shield in Diablo 2?
Yeah, sorceress.
Oh, okay, it's a spell. I think any character can get this, and it comes on armor though.
Oh, okay, right, yeah.
Okay. I think energy shield in Diablo 2 works as your mana pool, doesn't it?
Yeah.
It's a separate.
Sorry. Right, cool.
No, you're right. Okay, so energy shield can be used in lieu of HP. Yep. So there's a passive that you can take with some characters, with some builds, that allows you to reduce your HP pool to 1 in order to boost your energy shield. So this means that you can always be at max life unless you're actually dying, because you always have 1 hit point and you can't go any lower than 1 hit point or you die. So this means you always get 35 extra run speed with that kit. So I thought that was a pretty interesting build.
Yeah.
I want to get all these items just to make these builds around them. Like you can build a build around these items. So we just have one that's for fun. 10% increase in character size. Your character is literally bigger. That's all.
Yeah.
I think that's winning a hardcore race or something like that. So how does it apply to D3? Quite simply, your uniques you should feel bad. Do this. You had similar things in Diablo 2. Why not put them in Diablo 3?
Yeah.
I was just about to provide a link to some Diablo 2 uniques and tell you all about how these could actually impact your gameplay, and you could build whole builds around these Diablo 2 uniques. Diablo 2 worked very differently from Diablo 3, and they're totally different games, and I can't really see there'd be much crossover, but that is what it's a very different game. Who knows what applications it could have.
Cool.
I don't know how they screwed legendaries up, really.
Yeah, I think the items are the biggest problem really in the game at the moment, and I hope they get them fixed up pretty soon, because there's just not that much going on with the items at the moment. Just looking for your main stat, vitality, crit chance and crit damage and resistances, all in one item is a little bit boring. Just looking for this, that one thing is not that exciting. So yeah, hopefully it won't be too long before we see those improvements come in. But it's definitely lacking at the moment. That's pretty much all I have to say on that.
Well, they've identified it's an issue and it's a work in progress. So hopefully.
Yep.
I can see a positive end for this, so we'll just see what stats they end up coming out with. But hopefully they are interesting, build-enabling, game-changing, things like that. There was another bow I think I saw that had, it might not have been a unique, but there was one that gave you 50% extra damage when you were in melee range.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, really?
So that like completely changes the way you play the game, and I thought that was really cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, that does sound really cool.
Mm-hmm.
Could find an image on that one, but yeah, I wanted to at least say that one because yeah, really cool.
Hopefully it doesn't just, do like one quadrant, one quarter or 1/5 of the DPS, of the base DPS of like what would be a standard weapon.
Yeah.
Yay, I get to do an extra 50% damage. That makes it still not viable.
Niche situation where you're using mostly elemental damage or something like that.
I just don't get it. I don't know how they like. We've got all these weapons. Their DPS is just terrible. Terrible. I don't know who was testing that.
No, when you make, I don't. Yeah, it's really hard to understand because if I was making a game and I was making the legendaries, I was tasked with making legendaries. So, we had a round table discussion about our legendaries. You'd have so much fun like coming up with cool ideas for your legendaries and stuff, but instead they're just like, what makes sense? Well, this armor looks like it would resist fire, so let's put some fire resist on that, and we'll give it a a reasonable. That sounds about. Everyone agree with that? Yeah, that sounds pretty. Instead of what about if this armor makes everything around you catch on fire?
Yeah.
Why wouldn't you be having fun with that? I don't understand.
It would have been the work experience kid, and he had no additional programming resources for anything else, so that he was completely bound with existing stats, and that's that. And so the work experience kid put some numbers together, and this is what we got. It's the only explanation. And the people who should be the most pissed off in the world, the most pissed off are the people that actually drew the art for those items. Because some of them look really cool, and they all suck. Everyone. Not that we ever see the art. You can see them on the website, but you never find any of the freaking art.
Yeah.
Here's one that ties in actually with this. Path of Exile recently had a few community members design some of their uniques. Why doesn't Blizzard hold something like that? That could be really cool. Like have them design with the team, come up with the ideas and put a few uniques in the game. That'd be pretty.
That would actually be awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Have Reddit design item or something.
Yeah.
No.
Probably be like a helmet where your head looks like an alien or something.
Well, that's
Cool.
it for my segment. Path of Exile.
Awesome. Very good. Very good, sir. Cool. Well, do you want to do a market watch segment there, Pat?
Okay. My market watch segment is lacking because the ZiggyD segment was too interesting for me to actually zone out. But I've got a couple of really little quick tips. So
Okay.
do I get a sound effect or are they too small?
Yeah, sure. I'll do sound effect.
Yes.
There you go.
Awesome. Okay, so one, there's a lot of people that seem to be trading perfect gems, or not perfect gems, radiant star gems. And I've just been watching these as they've been moving around about week to week. And they do seem, I've got a feeling just by the frequency that they seem to be being traded at and the evenness that each of the radiant star gems seem to be trading at all around, like $40 to $44. Despite significant difference in terms of function and what I'd expect to be demand, they seem to be just being used as a bit of a currency by people. So I think that's got a lot of people using them. And I know that one trick that some people are doing is they instead of selling them on the real money auction house at through the commodity system, they are buying or finding a typical eye level 63 one socket ring with no other stats Of course, a level 10 version of the same thing works just as well. Is that possible? Well, level 20. How's that? Anyway, a level 20, socketed ring, and they just stick their Radiant Star Gem in the ring and then list that on the Real Money Auction House. And of course, the fee's only $1 instead of 15%. So,
Yep.
one cool way to save yourself on some fees and keep money away from Blizzard, and keep it for yourself. Another one. Hang on, what's my note even say here? Oh, right. Cool. So just another thing that I've seen, I had a couple of questions about was people just sending me a couple of DMs on YouTube saying, how do you actually price your items? I feel like I'm pricing my items, but I'm not. And, they don't seem to sell still. And, well, sometimes, the market's just tough. And it's when you don't have standard stuff in a very standardized way, then it's really quite difficult. So, for example, if you don't have those top 3 searchable stats on an item, then it starts getting increasingly difficult. And that doesn't mean it's not impossible, but it's just you want people to be able to compare your item to another item really easily. So, for example, I was shopping around for a life on hit weapon the other day, and that's easy. You can just sort the amount of life on hit you want. And I was just doing a search 900 life on hit, and then you can just sort that by DPS. Every time you get any other stat in there that's not totally useless, like level reduction or like bleed chance or something, it's a confounding element in there, and it complicates that process a little bit more. But you also need to consider what the alternatives would be. So, when you're trying to price your item, just instead of if you've got an item that you found that's 800 DPS and it's got 900 life on hit, then that's great. Just don't search for a 900 life on hit weapon and compare against that, but also compare against ones that have slightly higher DPS and slightly lower life on hit, and ones that have different attack speeds as well, or one that might even have a notably lower life on hit, but it does have also the stat of gains life on. Gains just lifesteal, straight up lifesteal on a percentage basis. There's 100 different ways to skin a cat, and you just need to try and look at what other people might be looking for when they are searching for your item. So if you've got 900 DPS, 900 life on hit, you should be comparing against things of similar level. So maybe start your search at 800, and then compare against relative alternatives or similar alternatives. So that's it. That'll help you price your items that little bit better.
Yep. Cool. Very good. And you're going to be appearing in the Sydney Morning Herald? Yay or nay?
Well, I'm being interviewed for it tomorrow. I got there was a post on Reddit about somebody on the Sydney Morning Herald wanting to talk about the Diablo Real Money Auction House, and got to comment on one of my videos, and we're going to be on the phone tomorrow. So who knows? He might not even publish it, but I hope he does.
I'm sure he
It'll
will.
be fun.
You have too many interesting things to say.
Yeah. I'll just have to try not to chew his ear off. That's my main issue.
Lay down some video game financial advice.
Yeah, or hopefully we can do it in a format over Skype, so I can use kick-ass visual aids.
Next thing you know, Sydney Morning Herald's got this hand-drawn thing with these lines and
front page.
Yeah, I
feel like they're a bit late to that they're doing this now, though. I guess the rest of the world's pretty late when it comes to gaming news about this sort of thing.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know if it's going to be just about Diablo or if it's going to be about the changing face of economics in gaming. Because that's
RMT and stuff like that, probably, maybe.
Yeah, well, it's a long story. I mean, with free to play games, 2 years ago, it was free to play. What rubbish!
Yeah.
Now look at them.
Now look at them. They're big, very big.
The biggest, even.
The biggest, yeah. Cool. All right. Well, guess that's about it for tonight.
We've got the bug fixes as well.
Yes.
I think worth a mention.
There's bug fixes. Please do share.
They So you go ahead.
got it.
Okay,
No.
I'll do it. July 26th, they did a couple of bug fixes fixing the 2 exploits, the wizard one and the barbarian one. So they no longer work.
So wizards out there, you missed your chance to be permanently invulnerable, and barbs, you lost your chance to have permanent furious charge.
That looked awesome.
Infinite damage. I saw on Crypt stream, you could stack different runes on that as well, and they would all work differently. And he was just walking around instantly killing things without having to attack. It's like, whoa.
Yeah, trust Crypt to work out how to build builds around.
It was like 2 weeks late to the party. Apparently, people have been doing it for ages. But yeah,
cool
exploits.
Cool. So
well,
then
pretty
I guess that's about it.
Okay.
Okay, that's it now.
So this was the Diablo Herald episode number 14. If you want to see previous episodes or episodes in the future, you can see them on the YouTube channel at youtube.com/Diabloherald. We also record them live on Twitch TV /Diabloherald. You should tweet me with any questions or anything that you'd like to hear on the show at Diabloherald. I do check the Twitter and would love to get some questions or any kind of interaction, anything. Tweet me there. What else? You can email me, diabloherald@gmail.com. And that's about it. But Highlander
send him the physical letter.
Yeah, you can send me a letter, but
Or just rock up at your place.
I don't know how you'll do that because I'm not going to give you my address. Just use email. That'll be fine. Yeah.
Okay.
Highlander does some YouTube stuff.
Yes, I do. I need to actually get off my ass and change my channel name. Right now it's still youtube.com/ScottishMoo, but that'll be changing perhaps even tonight. Geez, I can't even remember what I was changing to.
I should change it before the interview to the guy.
Yes.
So you can be like,
yeah, well, that was my plan. Right, so just forget I said anything. Follow me on Twitter at HighlanderSC, and you will find out exactly where I am there. It will be in my description because I update that, and I tweet a bit about cool stuff, mainly Diablo, little StarCraft.
That does sound cool.
It is cool.
ZiggyD.
Okay.
I'm on Twitter at ZiggyD StarCraft, and I'm also on YouTube at ZiggyD StarCraft there as well. I make Diablo 3, StarCraft, and Path of Exile content, and I'll be doing that in the future, and I have other channels and stuff too, but that's the main one, so go there. Check that stuff out, watch them, do all that jazz.
Sounds good.
Cool.
All right. Well, thanks for listening, guys. We'll see you next time. Bye.
See yous, thanks for watching.
See ya. Pink stuff.
Pink stuff. Pink